You are listening to bangradio.net.
What is up, Bang Radio? Steve Maeda here with another episode for you, episode number 78. And this is a video we're actually doing exclusively for Venusian Arts. If you're listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher, you can actually go to VenusianArts.com and watch this, or on YouTube and watch this, and definitely go to bangradio.net/78. 78. That's the numerical, number, yada, yada, yada. And you can download a bunch of cool stuff. Now, check this out. What we're talking about here is something super important. It's about the hate that comes in this industry, which is not about sex, not about seduction. You were born to be social. You were born to be sexual. And what we mean by that at Venusian Arts, at TSL, and all the things that I stand for is that everything within you that wants to make love, that wants to connect with a woman, that wants to have a girlfriend, that wants to have that beautiful moment is connected to that same thing that wants you to fuck, that wants you to fulfill your fantasies, that drives you as a man, that makes you want to use your dick. And the same goes for women. But the problem is we divide those things, whether they're divided through this idea, this bullshit idea of wanting to be a better man through dominating women and being better and being powerful and, all that MRA bullshit, or the opposite, where we see with feminism that where we're shamed as men for, extreme amounts of feminism, the one that's judgmental, that tells you how to live your life, that basically says we can't be sexual. We have to do it in a certain way. If we say something that's offensive, if we think sexually we're oppressive or misogynistic. Being a man, being a woman is holding that balance within yourself and learning how to complete it by connecting it with a woman, by two different things coming together to become one. That is seduction. That is the beauty of it. Man, if you want to get involved in this conversation because it's necessary, if you are a man and want to connect, go to VenusianArts.com/forum. Interact with a group of guys, especially the guys from VA Evolve, like you hear on this call, and learn that process of truly how to be a powerful sexual man that is you. Okay, so we have a question. We are currently on a VA Evolve call, and one of the guys brought up, as he gets more into women, and dating, intimacy, and this is how it is for me, because he didn't fully explain this, but he just said, as I get more into women, I sense anger. I sense that I'm getting angry or having negative thoughts come about and, all that sort of stuff. Well, there's so many different directions we can go with this, but my story in this was I was really angry and can get really angry towards anybody, but especially when it comes to women. In just like anger, hatred, frustration, it pisses me off, right? And it still can. I've worked through a lot of stuff. And that's not to say that anger towards anything is good. Anger towards anything, first off, if somebody steps on your toes or you fall and you hurt yourself or somebody cuts you off, feeling anger in that moment is one thing. That is how anger is meant to be felt. But if any emotion, even happiness, exists past the moment, it needs some dysfunction to hold on to, or an orchestration of dysfunction to hold on to. And that is not good. And that's where anger stops becoming this natural fluid emotion that we need and are supposed to have, that is truly of nature, and it becomes this other thing. And where I notice it myself, and having walked through a lot of just different times in my life and all that sort of stuff, is that my anger came from not knowing. Okay. And let's put this in a real childlike, mindset. When I was a kid, I liked this girl in the first grade, and I think she liked me, but I even got the sense of it then. And then some other dude said like, hey, I like you. And now we're like some pseudo boyfriend and girlfriend thing. And I was like, fuck her. It made me mad. Okay. I didn't know why it made me mad or whatever, but I felt this surge of emotions that I couldn't control that came out in this like nuts way. And whenever we get an overload of emotions, it turns into kind of like a fight or flight mentality. All right. Now we also get this. I was listening to all this stuff on Flow, and man, I would love to talk to this author. In fact, this one podcaster hit me up and said, hey, you should interview, this guy. And it would be good, because for my whole life, I tried to figure this out. where I was at with my creativity, where I was at with my art. And I didn't write so much down when I was exploring sex, but in my early 20s, it was all about being an artist. That was it, man. And I would do crazy stuff, like I would just do a regimen of things to stimulate my creativity. But this overwhelming amount of information, it was interesting that this guy brought this up with the whole flow thing, is he's like, when it's too much, when we push the comfort zone too much, when we push the limits too much, when we get too much into that state, we then stimulate a state of fight or flight. And that's where panic and social anxiety and the terror and all this sort of stuff comes in, rather than this natural state of slightly pushing it. And I think in the journey of being a man and the journey of being sexual, so feeling sex, and the journey of experiencing competition, of experiencing you asserting your direction and drive, we hit points where we don't know. And then there's nobody talking about it because it's such an abstract thing. Whether it's like you're running a race, you're going for competition, you're talking to a girl, it's the time to escalate on a girl, you're fucking a girl, and you feel like you want to aggressively have sex with her, you have a rape fantasy, you have all these things. And rather than talk about it, like these things might really be happening. And to be honest, everybody's feeling them. More people are feeling them than not. How about saying that? But keeping that secret keeps it hidden, and then we don't know. And when we don't know when something's happening, we freak out. Okay, and there's one thing about life that is absolutely certain, is that no matter how much we plan, no matter how much we know, experience is going to shape everything. We especially as men, want to know the science, want to know the information, want to know, every foolproof plan to do it, but that's not going to happen. And so what I needed to realize is I was fucking pissed, man. I was angry. Somebody brought this up earlier, but my porn friend, the California pimp, had told me, I don't know if he was referencing this, but had told me in 2008 or something like that, was like, man, all the pickup guys hate women. They are not happy with women. That's like clear what I see. And he was saying, he's like, man, actually, I probably shouldn't have said who he was, because he's a very, almost to the point of an extreme, very private person. But, he said, I grew up with a fucked up childhood. I hated women. I fucked my way through it. And, now I've learned to really appreciate him. And he had this weird balance because he was a porn guy. He was basically turning out girls to be in the porn industry. But all the girls that, not all, but some of them really did dislike him. But he had many girls around in his life who really, really did care for him. I was like, man, how is this? This is like, on the edge. This is like bad what he's doing, or society has said this and that. And, that was something that only experience could tell. And, maybe he did some bad, maybe he did some good, but he was doing something different than what I saw from any of the other, like, guys in the pickup industry doing. In fact, I'd even say that when it comes down to it, we need to be able to say, hey, we fucking are angry at women. When we feel that, we need to be able to say that. I mean, just think, if I was able to do that, I didn't even know why I was angry. You know why I was angry? I grew up with a really controlling mom that was like, in my mind, would play games with me and all this sort of stuff. And it fucked me up mentally. And now I don't really care about it much. I mean, my mom's just how she is, whatever. But it fucked with me majorly. Then, my first sexual experience, the girl gets kidnapped and raped and all this stuff. And believe it or not, so I had extreme amounts of compassion for her with that. But it was like I had extreme amounts of compassion for her. We stayed together. We went to counseling. But there were parts of me that I didn't even feel comfortable. I'm fucking 18, talking to this therapist, or God, man, I did this interview with the guy from the Alpha Man, Ted Rice, and he's talking about how the FBI, his brother was kidnapped and killed. And the FBI did this investigation and they were interrogating him. And I was like, dude, I relate with you so much, man. That's what the cops did to me. They were like, so when your friends planned on kidnapping your girl for the $200, or, your girlfriend, like, what did you get out of it? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it was totally traumatic. Like, I fucking think police are idiots for doing that shit. But and having me know about everything that happened, and going into detail, it fucked me up. So when she willfully had oral sex with the 8 guys there or whatever it was, and I'm just like, I don't, and like the thing is like when you hear that, and you're going through counseling and then you're having sex and it's literally like your 10th time having sex with somebody and she's doing it different than the 7 or 8 other times before because she just had sex for 6 hours with like, a bunch of dudes, at gunpoint, you start going like, fuck this and getting pissed off. All right. And so where my mind was at was there was it was a massive amount of confusion. And then there was a massive amount of, I don't want to talk to anybody. Okay, so I didn't talk to anybody. Well, I talked to people, but I didn't talk to women for years, for 3 years. And then I have a girlfriend, and then I'm trying to do it right. I'm trying to do what society says. This is how you respect women. This is what's good. This is how you don't be a rapist. This is how you don't be a whatever. And man, it's like this. I don't know. It's a great idea, but there's no fucking language of sex within that. And then I start having sex. And then by this time, I'm 25 and I've had sex with like 3 people or something. And then I fucked this girl. It was awesome, man. It was in Fullerton, California. She worked with me at a restaurant. She put the moves on me and she was just talking dirty and it was crazy. I just blow my load right away. But she's like, slap me, slap my tits, all this stuff, which was out of great, beautiful sexual pleasure. But I thought in order to do that, I needed to be a bad person or I needed to access this like, rape mind culture or something. And then, sometimes we would have good sex or bad sex, or maybe a side of me would come out that was too much, not for her, but for another girl. And she was like, oh, I don't feel comfortable with that. And then I would get pissed, or maybe I'd laugh, or maybe I did something that was out of the ordinary. And see, the thing is all that, because nobody's talking about it, made me feel different. And so, especially with sex and anger, I think first and foremost, we need to be able to say it. You know what I fucking needed most? What I needed most from any of that, when I was, I don't know, 19, 25, 28, but by the time I was 30, this started happening, was I needed most to come to a group of people that I could trust and say, man, I am fucking angry at women. I am angry at this woman or at this experience or this memory. And now I'm angry whenever deep emotions or intimacy come out with a woman. And that may not be your situation. That definitely may not be your situation. But if you can't come to a group of people and say that, then you are walking around with toxicity. And this could be anything. Well, I'm afraid of sex. Some guys made fun of me in school, or some, whatever, man. Yeah, I just feel different. I feel that my dick's too small. I feel that my dick's too big. And I feel like that's actually really common. Guys with big dicks are like, Jesus, I feel like a freak. It hurts women, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, if everybody was walking around naked, if everybody had transparency, if everybody could exist and be honest with one another and show themselves, we would have a much different potential and human connection. And there would be a whole different set of problems. I don't want to say it would be fantasy land, but man, we wouldn't have these unnatural, bizarre problems that we have today. And so what came with my anger is, I'll still have it. There'll be stuff where it's like, some shit will come up on Facebook, or somebody will, step my toes. Actually, a guy, our dogs got out last night and ran after this guy with a dog, and he started swearing at me. And I was like, hey, man, how are you doing? He was like, get your fucking dogs. And he's just going off. And I was like, man, how you doing? He's like, I was doing a lot better until you're fucking. And I was like, hey, man, chill out. Like, shut the fuck up, or whatever I said to him. But I got very stern and I switched into that like anger mode. And, it's like, what makes me hold on to that anger, and what makes me, have that anger and react to it, are all part of this inability to express and communicate. And there's a lot of women with it out there too. There's a lot of different guys having sex with women with, out there with it. But, and one of my problems with all the fucking feminist, like anti-misogynistic stuff is because it's totally unrealistic. I mean, guys need to be able to talk about this shit. Fuck, man. This fucking bitch pissed me off. This motherfucking, whatever stepped on my toes, yada yada yada. We gotta be able to have that discussion, so that we could vent and get back to an equilibrium of where we can talk to somebody. I agree. And hey, and one of the reasons why I agree we shouldn't have that discussion in public is because we shouldn't. It totally doesn't communicate. But if we could take it to a place where we could talk about it, that would be cool. And then we could sort out what's there and what's not. We could determine, what about our pissed offness? What about our idiosyncrasy? Whatever, our idiosyncrasies. But what about all those particular things about ourselves, about our sex life, about this language, about these feelings that we don't always feel are odd and feel a little bit different? And then we could go, oh, wait, okay, that's normal. Oh, wait, maybe that is over the line. Oh, wait, well, where could I express that? How could I communicate that better? But to think that something so deep within you that is a drive, that is a force of nature, whether that's your emotion, whether that's your sexual urge, whether that's your desire and ambition, but to think that that is flawed is a horrible experience, or just a horrible way to think. And if we can, and I think everybody's going to have that experience, but if we could limit that to a shorter amount of time with some people expressing themselves and talking about what the reality is, that would be good. And I think that with anger towards women, when that comes out, if we have it, man, we need to be able to talk about it. And we need to be able to talk about perhaps where that anger is coming from or what you feel. And then relate with others talking about what they feel. Because to be honest, I can be very quick to say, like, fuck that bitch, man. What a fucking cunt. I could say that about a certain situation, but I don't want to live with that. I don't want to I do not have experiences and love and compassion and whatever with the people in my life from that mentality. But when that mentality comes up, I need to put it out. I do not have any of myself that I value from fuck that bitch. But I got to be able to say it. I've got to be able to say it. And why not? In other words, that may be something that a lot of people frown upon, or whatever anger comes out targeted in a specific situation. It doesn't have to be towards women. But what is necessary, what is absolutely necessary for our lives to hit expression, to hit the best parts about yourself, to hit what human beings are really. And without this, you'll be in more pain, more dysfunction, more chaos. You need to be able to express things that you don't know and can't feel and don't understand. And what do we say? And actually, in one of the quick audios that we do for this course, what is it? Your biggest demons, or your biggest reflection of what you need to work on, are going to come out in your failures, your rejections, and things that you don't like. And if you can examine and look carefully with that and not react to it, then you can see what you need to work on next. And that is the journey that I am constantly on, that is just such an important thing. Okay, so we see here I have 2 cents. What's up?
One of the interesting things with anger, we were talking before about the unknown, and like, hey, if there's something unknown, it triggers this fight or flight. But one of the things I notice is that it can also be the novelty. Like, man, I don't know. What is she like? I'm curious. What's she going to be like in bed? What's this? What's that? You know, little babies, when they're born in the world, they have no story. They have no concept of anything. They're just totally present. And they may get angry, they may cry, they may do that, but it's a natural response of expressiveness. And then they go right 2 seconds later back into something of exploring what's happening around them in their environment. It's when we have a story somewhere else that makes us afraid of the unknown. And a lot of these things, like when you're little, it's like, don't touch your penis. Oh, pull your pants up, you know, all these kind of things, right? So then later on, when we get into a situation like what's going to happen, I don't know, builds this fear. It builds this anger, builds these different expressions of depression or whatever. But it's not the unknown. When we can actually get past our stories, we'll have emotions bubble up and express. But man, we love the unknown. As human beings, you know, to explore the unknown is something that we're known for. That's part of the reason why we're here, you know, to explore the unknown. But when we have resistance to the unknown, this fight or flight thing come up, there's usually a deeper story buried underneath that we haven't explored yet. And that's the cool thing about like the VA programs, right? Because they have this identity workshop or identity workbook thing where you get to explore a lot of things and your viewpoints and stuff. You go, oh, yeah, this is my story. Oh, this is where this comes from. And you get to expose a lot of that, which then helps free you. Because once you kind of understand, the thing is, when these stories are locked in your subconscious, a lot of times we don't know why they're there. And so, you know, we make this story up about having fear of the unknown. But when we can start to get more in contact and talk with a group of guys and share our viewpoints and things and get more in the moment, we start to appreciate the unknown. Matter of fact, we kind of get curious about the unknown and want to go out and explore that.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening to this episode, Bang Radio, episode number 78. If you want to listen to the other episodes because you're watching this on YouTube or at VenusianArts.com, you can go to iTunes or Stitcher, subscribe to it. There's 78 episodes, man, that are just awesome, jam-packed with information on anything to approach anxiety, sex, seduction, yada, yada, yada. And, of course, if you want some freebies, go to bangradio.net/78. That is the number 78. And you can download a bunch of cool free stuff. Now, that being said, look, guys, let's get past the hate. This is the first of a couple calls that we're going to get into, or podcasts, where we talk about this, man, what it means to be a man, to process that stuff out of us. As for myself, as you hear, dude, I had a lot of shit. When it came to sex with me, I had baggage coming into play. There's a way to get past that. And there is a beautiful unification in your expression of sexuality. None of it is bad. It's only bad if we're living in disconnect. Get past the hate. Get past the bullshit, hate culture, motherfucking shit. Whatever side that's coming from, it's all fucked up. The best parts of you, and that's what we're talking about in this call, come from the core with you that is aside from that. The side of you that's angry, the side of you that can't connect, the side of you that is pissed off, hurt, afraid, whatever, angry, rageful, is not the side of you that is going to make your life better. Let's live in an awesome place. You're born to be social. You're born to be sexual. Let's do it. Thanks again. Subscribe. Give us some stars, some reviews. Leave comments. We'll all get back to you and talk to you guys soon.